Tragedy struck a Colorado school again this week after two alleged gunmen opened fire at the STEM school and academy in Highlands Ranch. Kendrick Castillo died a hero in the shooting after lunging at one of the gunmen and saving many of his fellow students. At a vigil on Wednesday to commemorate his life and the survivors, a number of students walked out in frustration after perceiving the politicization of the event by speakers. Eric, this is yet one more tragic, violent headline that happens in Denver. But I guess what I take away from this so far is the people who do want to rush to a political corner that we've talked about on this show many times, both of them have some questions right now. Folks didn't want to see it politicized on the gun control side, and folks who said, let's arm every school. There was a private security guard there, and there's an investigation going on how that security guard reacted. So there is no perfect solution, yet everybody wondering, why here, why again? As you see the things fall out this week, what's your reaction?
My reaction is obviously was shocking again, but it was shocking for the event, and then it was shocking in the way of how little we're shocked anymore. That these things continue to be prevalent, they continue to happen. The question of why here, why the plethora of them in Denver or suburban Denver, I have no idea. I don't know that there's an explanation to it. I think your question, Dominic, is dead on in terms of everyone racing to their political corners. Good for those students who felt they were being used at some, I guess it was more of a vigil, but the vigil had elements of turning almost into a political rally. And good for those students standing up saying this is not about politics and not about speeches, this is about us. Obviously good for Kendrick Castillo, good for a couple of those other kids who took matters into their own hands, but how sad that we have kids who have to go to school thinking about self-defense. Shame on anyone who thinks there is a simple solution here, whether that is people on the right who reject gun control or some enhance gun control as being a part of that answer. Shame on people on the left who think that you can magically confiscate guns, which is not going to happen in this society, and that this problem would go away, because this is a deeper problem. And yes, it's about guns, but first and foremost, it's about culture and what kind of culture these kids are growing up in. It's like the homelessness issue before. There is not a simple answer, but we better come up with one, because what we're doing to this generation of kids, more psychologically, yes, one person very sadly lost their life, but the psychological piece of this is just horrific.
Megan, I can't even imagine where an editorial board starts in trying to look at this, but give us an insight to how you and your board take a look at something this tragic, but also this repetitive in our community.
So the editorial we wrote and the aftermath was focused entirely on Kendrick Castillo, his bravery, giving tribute to him, and giving the community time and space to grieve, because there will be time after the investigations are complete, after we've picked apart the shortcomings in the system that allowed this to happen. You know, what school administrators knew when they knew it, how they responded to it, you know, how those kids got those guns. You know, there will be time to do all of that, and there will be thorough reports, and then we can respond in a public policy way to ways that we can make this less likely to happen again. But for now, the editorial board it felt very strongly that it's just time to talk about Kendrick. What an amazing kid he was. Mm-hmm. Like, just heartbreaking that we lost him. And then there will be time to talk about all the other stuff.
Patty, might be this is something, 20 years ago at Columbine, now those students and their whole generation who have lived with lockdown drills are going to be part of the leadership in our society. Perhaps it's the kids who are now the adults who have lived with this last 20 years who might need one that makes the change, not the folks that came before.
Well, you have Patrick Neville, who was at Columbine, who's now in the Colorado legislature. You have Tom Sullivan, whose son died at the Aurora Theater shootings, who's there too. They disagree. The problem is there are so many different viewpoints on this, so many different possible solutions, but certainly talking about it in a studied way instead of the hysteria over Wednesday night when we really didn't need to hear from a congressman's wife when the kids wanted to talk. We've got to be sure we really analyze what's happening here.
Michael, wrap it up for us.
Well, I thought it was interesting, the three images that were stuck in my head were the kids standing outside with the cops going by, very scared, very sad. Being a former teacher, that one really impacted me. The parents running to see, is other kids okay or not? And then Kendrick Castillo's dad talking about how he's a hero. And I think this story should mainly be about Kendrick, and a vigil is not the place for politics during that time. There is policy discussions that have to happen, that should happen, but that's not the time or the venue for Senator Bennett or Congressman Crow to do that. So giving the kids time to grieve, obviously very unfortunate circumstance, and hopefully it'll be the last one. I don't think that's the case, but hopefully it is that, and we need to continue to have this discussion long term.